Welcome to Muted Memoirs, where we dive deep into the messy, uncomfortable, and often unspoken corners of our life. I'm your host, Dr. Tavleen Kaur. Today's episode is deeply personal. I am talking about a feeling which is universal, yet often silenced. I am talking about grief, specifically grieving out loud and breaking the taboo of discussing loss. Is there any human being on planet Earth who has not experienced grief? I'm sure the answer is none. And I am no exception to this feeling. During my personal journey of grief, I was expected to let it go quickly. The world around me wanted me to complete my grieving process according to their timeline, not mine. I also found that people around me were confusing. If I did not show my emotions, I was perceived as someone who is thick-skinned. And at times when I did try to open up and took my time to process my emotions, I was labeled a crybaby. And during this journey of grief, I realized that someone who is going through the loss of a loved one is quickly expected to put up a brave face. That person is expected to move on quickly as if nothing happened. But today, I am going to give grief the voice that it deserves. Why is grief treated like a taboo? Why do we shy away from sharing something which is so deeply human? I remember when I was going through my cycle of grief, the pain was excruciating and overwhelming. I felt an unspoken pressure to let it go. And at times when I opened up, I found an uncomfortable silence around me. And I realized that my grief was an inconvenience to the world around me. I want you all to imagine a world where grief is shared openly, where it is okay to cry about the loss of a loved one without the fear of making others uncomfortable. Sharing your grief with others is actually therapeutic. When you share your grief with others, you allow them to witness your journey, offer support, and also help carry the weight of our sorrow. I think it's time we need to change the narrative around grief from something that should be hidden to something which is natural and a necessary part of our life. So if you know someone who's grieving, offer your support by not pushing them to forget it or giving them a timeline. Allow them to process their grief and complete their grieving cycle at their own pace. If you do not know what to say or if you are uncomfortable, remember just your non-judgmental presence is enough. Sometimes by not saying anything and just being there is the best support we can offer. Just sit with them, hold their hand, hug them. These gestures can be incredibly comforting. Statements like, "I'm here for you," it is natural to go through this feeling or to feel this emotion. These can mean a lot to someone. I would say stay away from saying things like, "It's good it happened. Everything happens for a reason." Though these statements could be well intentioned, but sometimes they are taken as dismissive. To those who are grieving the loss of their loved one, remember, grief is not linear. There are days when you will feel okay, and there will be days when that void of your loved one will hit you again. From my experience, I can say these waves are natural. Just know that sharing your pain with someone can ease your journey and can make you feel lighter. Remember, it is okay to share your grief. It is okay to have days where you do not want to hold back your tears. So take a moment today or this week and honor the loss of a loved one by sharing it with someone you deeply trust. And if someone trusts you with their grief, offer your support by letting them complete their cycle at their own pace. Remember, grief has no timeline. Thank you for joining me in today's episode of Muted Memoirs. If this touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear these words. Let us start a conversation around grief. Let us give grief the voice that it deserves, and let us together break the silence. I'm your host, Dr. Tavleen Kaur, and I will see you in the next episode of Muted Memoirs.